Touchdown, Alabama, let's get it.
The process, no one can stop this. Hottest show in the streets, I bet you can't top this. Rammer, jammer, yellow hammer, come see how we rock this. Alabama fans, the best, there's no way you can top this. Recruiting news and interviews, just sit back and watch this.
Recruiting news and interviews, just sit back and watch this.
The process.
Welcome to the process, Crimson Tide Recruiting. I am Dust Scotting, recruiting analyst for Touchdown Alabama Magazine, your host of the process. You guys can check out the process every Monday and Wednesday on Touchdown Alabama's YouTube page. So be sure to subscribe to Touchdown Alabama on YouTube. A lot of storylines are going around Alabama football and their recruiting efforts as they attempt to close out their 2020 recruiting class on Wednesday, National Signing Day, the signing day of the traditional signing period. Alabama did sign 22 recruits during the early signing period and do have 4 verbal commits at the moment. They will look to sign a couple of those guys on Wednesday as well. And I wanted to take a look at Alabama's 2020 recruiting class, take a look at some of the storylines, some of the rumors that are going around Alabama's 2020 recruiting efforts, and I wanted to take a look at that on this episode of the process. But before I dive into that, I do have to hit you guys with those recruiting updates. As always, Alabama had a huge junior day this past weekend. You guys check out all of the updates that we posted on touchdownalabama.com. We have you covered with so many different updates that we got from Alabama's junior day event. Some of the biggest takeaways revolved around Alabama's 5-star athlete target in McKinstry, a 5-star out of Pennsylvania Valley High School in Pinson, Alabama. He actually got a chance to spend some time with Alabama's football team as well as their basketball team. McKinstry is an accomplished basketball player who looks to play both sports at the next level. Schools like Kansas, Auburn, Ole Miss, and a couple of other schools have offered him in both sports. So Alabama is looking at that possibility. Got a chance to talk with Nate Oates. He did tell me what he thought about Nate Oates. You guys check out that article on touchdownalabama.com. The link will be in this description. Alabama's 5-star defensive end target Thomas Adelaide did not make it down to Alabama Junior Day, but he did tell me he does plan on visiting Alabama in March and during the spring months, because the month of February, the rest of the month of February from here on out is a dead period, which means that no school can host any recruits. They can reach out to certain recruits and contact them through via mail or via the phone call or via text messages, but they cannot host any recruits for any type of visit. So that is something to keep a note on for the month of February, especially with Alabama's 2021 recruiting efforts, as they will shift most of their attention to the 2021 recruiting class after Wednesday, once they close out the 2020 recruiting class for the most part, especially with the guys they plan on signing on Wednesday. But to get this show started today, I do not have a recruiting question. I'm just gonna dive right into the storylines that are surrounding Alabama football recruiting at the moment. But as always, you guys can call into the process at 205-440-3968. Again, that's 205-440-3968. Call into the process, leave your recruiting question via voicemail, and it will be answered on the process by yours truly. So with that being said, let's get the process started. Well, let's get right to it. A lot of talk is surrounding 4-star defensive tackle McKinley Jackson out of Mississippi. So let's talk about what we do know, some things that are a fact when you look at Alabama's 4-star defensive tackle target, McKinley Jackson's recruitment. There are a few things that we know about 4-star defensive tackle McKinley Jackson for a fact. We know that Alabama hosted him for an official visit. Alabama's coaching staff has visited him several times since then. He did get onto the campus of the University of Alabama before the traditional signing period during the month of January. We also know that McKinley Jackson has officially visited LSU. LSU's head coach Ed Orgeron has visited McKinley Jackson at home, and Texas A&M is still in the mix. They did host him this past weekend, so we know for a fact Texas A&M, LSU, and Alabama are still in the mix. Many feel that Freddie Roach's relationship with McKinley Jackson will help Alabama out in some way. I think it does help Alabama out with the long-standing relationship that Roach has with McKinley Jackson dating back to his time at Ole Miss. But I also think McKinley Jackson is a kid. When you look back at his recruitment, he has always known that he was going to push his recruitment out to the last possible second in a way. He has stated that he was going to make his commitment and sign to the school of his choice during the traditional signing period for some time now. So this has been his plan. I think he has kept all of his options open as far as which schools he's going to look at, which top schools he's going to look at heading down the stretch. And it looks like Texas A&M, LSU, and Alabama. I do feel Alabama is in a good position based off the way that they have continued to push for him, and I think they are in a great position. Pete Golding and also Alabama's newest defensive line coach, who is expected to be announced as Alabama's defensive line coach, Freddie Roach. I think Alabama is in a good position with those guys in the recruiting efforts of McKinley Jackson. But I also think Texas A&M is still in the mix. It's gonna be one of those recruitments that are gonna come down to this very last week, and I think it's a toss-up at the moment. You can feel Alabama is in the lead because they have been around this recruitment for so long. Many feel that Alabama was the leader for so long, especially with them adding on Freddie Roach. But I think this is a coin toss recruitment when it comes to McKinley Jackson at this point. It's either Texas A&M or Alabama. It's one of those recruitments where we're going to have to take a deep look at, and I think Alabama fans are going to be relieved if they do get him. I think they're going to feel that they missed out on one of the top defensive tackles who I've seen, especially in his 2020 recruiting class. I think he's a very talented kid, and I think wherever he goes, he's going to have an opportunity to produce. So that's what I feel about McKinley Jackson. Nothing is certain when you basically saying if he made a decision. I doubt if he made a decision at this very moment, but Texas A&M and Alabama looks like the final two. Then there's Ennis Rakestraw Jr., the 3-star defensive back out of Duncanville High School in Duncanville, Texas. Rakestraw officially visited Alabama a couple of weeks ago. Alabama's head coach Nick Saban did visit Rakestraw Jr. for an in-home visit. Alabama's defensive back coach Carl Scott, along with Alabama special teams coach and Texas area recruiter Jeff Banks, also visited Rakestraw Jr. at home. So Alabama has laid out the red carpet for Rakestraw Jr. in a way, basically pushing to get him on campus before the traditional signing period, as well as visiting him at home several times, with Nick Saban visiting and Banks and Scott visiting as well. But Alabama is not the only school that is in the mix for Rakestraw Jr. heading down the stretch. You have Missouri and Texas, who looks like they are the other two teams that Rakestraw Jr. is considering heading into Wednesday. Alabama, Missouri, and Texas, all three schools have hosted Rakestraw Jr. for an official visit. When you look at Missouri, this is a team that offered Rakestraw Jr. in October, which means they have the longest standing relationship of all three of those schools. Alabama and Texas both offered Rakestraw Jr. during the month of January, so Missouri does have the heads up on both of those guys when you look at the fact that they did offer him in October and they have been building that relationship. I think he cherished the fact that they did take a chance on him before other schools really gave him any attention, really. So that is something to keep a note on when looking at the Missouri Tigers. As far as the Texas Longhorns are concerned, it's pretty obvious why they are a threat for Alabama possibly not landing Rakestraw Jr. And this is a school that's only 3 hours from Rakestraw Jr.'s hometown, so he's going to be very close to home, and that's always a big factor when you're looking at going to school and going to college and playing football at the next level. But I do think Alabama is in a good position for Rakestraw Jr. It's hard to overlook the amount of respect that he has for Alabama and the success that they have had under Nick Saban, basically saying it has been his dream to play for Alabama since he was a little kid, basically watching Alabama's games as a fan. So I think that Alabama's in a good position just based off that, because when you have that as a little kid, you remember that it's one of the reasons that he started playing football. So I feel that Alabama is in a good position based off the respect that Ennis Rakestraw Jr. has for Alabama. But with Missouri having that long-standing relationship and with Texas being an in-state school, there are several reasons to believe that they are still in the fight for Ennis Rakestraw Jr. heading into Wednesday. 5-star defensive end Alfred Collins is another guy Alabama is pushing for heading into the traditional signing day on Wednesday. And Alfred Collins is a kid Alabama hosted for an official visit in September. I have expressed that he is a name just to keep a note on, but I do feel the same way at this very moment that Alabama is behind Texas. If the decision was made today, I would predict that Texas does land an in-state kid. But Alabama has been around this recruitment quietly in a way, basically not really kicking up any dust, just not really being talked about as far as them pushing for African College, but they have remained in the mix. He told me they have been in contact since his last official visit to Alabama, which was in September, which he told me that he had a great talk with Coach Saban during that official visit. So African College is just a kid to watch out for. At this moment, I don't fear Alabama is the leader or anything like that, but they are still in the mix. He did say that he would choose between Alabama and Texas and Oklahoma, so I do think Alabama is in the mix for African College heading into the traditional signing period. So keep your eyes out for African College for a possible surprise commitment if there was ever a surprise coming out of Alabama's, ever was a surprise coming for Alabama landing a commit in the 2020 recruiting class during the traditional signing day. Cedric Van Pran is a four-star offensive lineman who did take an official visit to Alabama during the month of January. And Alabama's defensive coordinator, Pete Golding, had a lot to do with that when I got a chance to talk with Cedric Van Pran at the Under Armour All-America game practices. He did tell me that his relationship with Pete Golding was a good one and that his relationship with Pete Golding would possibly push him to take an official visit to Alabama during the month of January, as Golding was pushing hard to get Cedric Van Pran on campus for the Tide. But Cedric Van Pran has been verbally committed to Georgia for some time now, but when Georgia's former offensive line coach Sam Pittman decided to become Arkansas's head coach, that's when Cedric Van Pran started exploring his options. He took an official visit to Alabama this past weekend. He also visited Florida. Visited Florida this past weekend and visited Alabama earlier during the month of January. So Cedric Van Pran is a guy who I feel who just wanted to explore his options outside of Georgia. If I had to make a prediction today, I would say the Bulldogs keep him. I do feel that Alabama is possibly in the mix. If a flip was to happen, I believe Alabama would be the favorite, but I don't see Cedric Van Pran flipping from Georgia at this very moment. That'll be it for this episode of The Process. Thank you guys so much for joining me. As always, subscribe to Touchdown Alabama on YouTube. Pick up a subscription to touchdownalabama.com. We'll keep you guys covered throughout the traditional signing period and traditional National Signing Day on Wednesday. So be sure to stay updated with Touchdown Alabama. Download the Touchdown Alabama app. It is available in the Apple App Store as well as the Google Play App Store. So be sure to download the Touchdown Alabama app. As always, I am Justin Smith, the Scouting and Recruiting Analyst with Touchdown Alabama Magazine.
Process.